Welcome to division of logarithm. In this lesson, I would like to show you how to perform division of numbers using logarithm. Let's get started. Division law of logarithm. Division law of logarithm states that when two or more numbers are divided, the logarithm of the numbers will be subtracted. So for an instance, you're given a number 32.45 divided by 2.25. So, with your calculation, you determine the log of both numbers, 1.5112 as the log of this one, and for this other one, 0.3522. So, what division law says that you need to subtract them. So, whenever you have divide in between maybe two or more numbers, so all you need to do is to subtract them. That's the reason why we have subtract sign here, minus sign right here. Okay, let's see example 1. Example 1, we have to evaluate 32.45 divided by 2.25. Draw your number log first, and then the next thing to do is to arrange your numbers. Okay, if you look at both numbers, 32.45 is greater than 1 and 2.25 also is greater than 1. So it will be easy for us to determine the log directly using our calculator. So find your calculator. Okay, and then press your log 32.45. Then press equals to or enter. That will give 1.5112. So if you do all the approximation, make sure your mantissa, you need to have a 4 figure after your decimal, only 4 digits after your decimal, 5112. So your mantissa is 5112. So that means our log for 32.45 will be 1.5112. Okay, so let's find the log of 2.25. So take your calculator and then press log 2.25, then press equals to or enter. That's giving us 0.3521. We are supposed to stop here, then check other numbers and see the approximation you need to make to this particular number here. So if you look at the number next to the 1 to the right hand side, which is 8, if we approximate 8, it's going to give us 1. So when we add the 1 to this 1 that we have here, it's going to give us 2. So we have 0.3522. Okay, the next thing for us to do, since we have divide in between them, we are applying division law. So and division law says that after determining the log of both, we need to subtract them. Okay, so if we subtract, we have 2 minus 2. Okay, and we have something like this as our answer. 2 minus 2 is going to give us 0. And then we have 1 minus 2. Can we remove 2 from 1? Impossible. So all we need to do is to borrow 1 from here. So if we borrow 1 from here, that means 0 will be left here. So we borrow 1 to this one that we have here. That means this one will become 11. So 11 minus 2, that will give us 9. Okay, let's go to the next stage. Remember that we borrow 1 from here. That means it's 0 that is left here. So remove 5 from that 0. That is impossible. We can't remove 5 from 0. So all we need to do is to borrow 1 from this 5 that we have here. So if we borrow 1 from here to this place, this will become 10. That is 1 and 0. You know we have 0 here before. So that is 1 and 0. That becomes 10. So 10 minus 5, that's going to give us 5. You remember we borrowed 1 from here. That means what will be left here will be 4. So 4 minus 3, that will give us 1. And then the last one, 1 minus 0, that's going to give us 1. So we have 1.111590. So the next thing for us to do is to determine the antilog. So before you do that, try to check the value and see that the characteristic that we have here is not less than 1, or maybe if the characteristic is not in bar. So if you look at this characteristic, it's positive characteristic, so it will be easy for us to use our calculator to determine it. But if it is a negative characteristic, well, we can just determine it directly like this using our calculator, because it's going to give a wrong answer. But since it's a positive characteristic, we can use our calculator to determine that. So press the calculator now, and then shift log, that's where we have our log antilog. Then press the number 1.1590, press equals to or enter, and that is giving us 14.42. Remember, our four figure table says that for the antilog we need to have 4 figure. So that means if you're using your table, it has to be 1442. That's to be 4 figure. So for your calculator now, we're using the same method, 1442. So our final answer will be 14.42. So if we try to approximate every other numbers, we still arrive at having 2 here. So our final answer is 14.42. Final answer 14.42. Okay, let's look at example 2. In this example 2, we asked to evaluate 29.57 divided by 119.8. Okay, first of all, you need to draw your number log and then arrange the number since we have the dividing between them. So let's arrange the numbers, and the next thing is look at the numbers and see if they are greater than 1 or less than 1. So if you look at both numbers, they are greater than 1. That means it will be very easy for us to use our calculator to determine it directly. But for those of you that are making use of your 4-figure table, so all you need to do is to check 29 under 5 difference 7 from your calculator and from your 4-figure table. And for the second number, you're checking 11 under 9 difference 8. So you need to determine their characteristic first. So the characteristic of this one is 1. If you remember, you need to count the number of digits before the decimal. So, and that is 2 minus 1. And for this one, this is 3 minus 1. And the characteristic of this one will be 1. The characteristic of this one will be 2. So all you just need to go into your 4-figure table and check 29 under 5 difference 7, 11 under 9 difference 8. Okay, for the purpose of this lesson, we're going to make use of our calculator. So put on the calculator, and then we're going to check log 29.57. That's going to give us 1.4708, then 5. We're supposed to stop at this 8, so all we need to do is to approximate the next number to it. So if you approximate 5, it's going to give us 1, so we add the 1 to the 8, and that will give us 1.4709. So our log there will be 1.4709. So let's determine the log of the second number. Found our calculator, and then we're looking for the log of 119.8. the press equals to or enter. That's going to give us 2.0784. You can see other numbers, so all we need to do is to try to approximate the numbers. If we approximate 8 to 7, 8 to 6 is going to give us 7 here. If we approximate 7 to this 5 will turn to 6, and then we approximate the 6 to this 4, and this 4 will become 5. So remember that it's 4 figure, so that means we need to have 4 digits, which is the Mantisar side. We need to have 4 digits of it, so that means we need to have our final answer there will be 2.0785 for the log of 119.8. so we have 2.0785. so the next thing for us to do now is to obey the law of division in logarithm that says that whenever we have two or more numbers, when they are divided, that means we need to subtract them. So obeying that, we have minus in between them. So if we subtract, we'll have this answer. So let me try to explain the answer. 9 minus 5 is going to give us 4, and then remove 8 from 0. That is impossible, so all you need to do is to borrow 1 from the next number. So if you borrow 1 from here, it will remain 6 here. Then put the 1 together with this 0, that will become 10. 1 0, that will become 10. So 10 minus 8, that will give us 2. Okay, let's go to the next stage. We have 6 remaining here, so remove this 7 from the 6 that is remaining. That is also impossible because 7 is greater than 6. That's the reason why it's impossible. So all we need to do is to borrow another one from this place to the 6, and that will make it 1 6, which is 16. So 16 minus 7, that will give us 9. Remember that we borrow 1 from this 4, so that means it's 3 that will be remaining here. 3 minus 0 is to still be 3. Then the next thing that we now have is 1 minus 2. So minus means that maybe you're owing, so we have 1 minus 2. So you have 1 cent with you and you are owing somebody 2 cents. Okay, if I may ask you, if you pay the 1 cent to the person you're owing, will you still be owing, or you have paid all your money? Well, as a matter of fact, you still be owing, so that is minus 1. But in logarithm, instead of you saying minus 1, so you say bar 1. So that is the reason why we have this bar 1 right here. You see, that's the reason why we have this bar 1 right here. Okay, the next thing for us to do is to determine our antilog. So if you look at this thing that we have here, this bar 1 that we have here, if we try to enter this value into our calculator directly, we're going to get a very wrong answer. So for us not to get a wrong answer, we need to do a work around it. So, or if you don't want to do that, you can go into your 4-figure table, but let's use our calculator to do the workaround. So instead of including this bar 1, we're not going to include the bar 1, which is the minus 1. We're not going to include it. So all we need to include is 0.3924. So let's press our second function, or shift log for our antilog, then 0.3924, and then press enter. Okay, if you look at right here, we have something like 2, 4, 6, 8. We only need 4 digits out of this place, and we don't need the decimal. So that's the reason why I call it a workaround. That means we need 4 digits out of this place, and we don't need the decimal. All we need is the number 2, 4, 6 8. If there is any approximation we need to make, okay, if you look at the approximation, if you approximate the next number to the 8, which is the last 4 digits, it's going to give 0. So that means we'll still have the same number 2 4 6 8. So we only need the number 2 4 6 8. Okay, so for those of you that are making use of your 4-figure table, so you're going to have the value 2468. So after having the value 2468, the next thing to do now is to add 1 to this characteristic. That will help you to locate the position of your digit. For you to locate the position of digits, you need to add 1 to this. Okay, so if we add 1 to -1, that's -1 plus 1. You're owing somebody 1 cent, you now pay the person 1 cent, so that will definitely give 0. So that's 0. So for us to locate the position now, that is definitely 0. So all we need to do in a simple term will be for us to say we have 2, we have 4, we have 6, and we have 8. Okay, so how do we now locate that position? Well, since it's 0, that means we are supposed to count from this place. We are supposed to count from here. So all we need to do is to just put our decimal here. Since it's 0 that we got as our characteristic there, so we just put our decimal here. This is actually the place we are supposed to count from, so that means we put our point there since we got 0. If it is bar 1, that means we need to count to the left hand side. If it is bar 2, we continue to count to the left hand side. But assuming this place gives us a positive value, positive characteristic, that means we will count to our right hand side. So but for the sake of this lesson, so our decimal will be here and we put 0 here, so we have 0.2468. Our final answer will now be 0.2468. Okay, when you are through, you can cross-check your work to see whether you're correct using your calculator. Okay, so let's try to do that. Okay, 29.57. You can see we have divided by 119.8. So let's press divided by 119.8. Press equals or enter. So you can see we have 0.2468. If you look at it right here, it tallies with our answer. So that means we are correct. Okay, let me show you example 3. In this example 3, we are asked to evaluate 0.5692 divided by 0.0943. So the first thing you're going to do is to draw your number log, and then because we have division in between them, so we only have 2 numbers here, so let's arrange the 2 numbers. And then the next thing to do is to look at the both numbers and then check whether they are greater than or less than 1. So if you look at the first number is less than 1, and even the second number too is less than 1. As you can see from here, 0 point, as you see from this one to 0 point, so it's less than 1. So if you decide to use your calculator to find the log directly of this both number, it's going to give you a wrong answer. So in order for you not to get a wrong answer, the first thing you're going to do is to get your characteristic. So the characteristic for the first one, to get it, we need to know where our reference position will be for this number. Our reference position will be immediately after the first non-zero digit, and the first non-zero digit is this 5. So that means our reference position will be in between 5 and 6. So all we need to do is to count our number of place of decimal from this point to that reference position, and that will only be 1. So because we have 1 there, so that means our characteristic will be bar 1. Okay, the next thing for us to do now is to check our log, which is 5692. If you're using your Figure table, then go to your logarithm and check 56 under 9 difference 2. But if you're using calculator, we're making use of a workaround that. So find your calculator and then press log 5692, then press equals to or enter. Then since I said we're making use of a workaround, that means the only number that we needed here is the mantissa, which is the 4 digit after the decimal. So 7553. Then if we approximate this 6 to this 2 becomes 3. So we're only stopping here because the mantissa will be 4 digits. So we don't need the characteristic here, we only need the mantissa, which is 7553. Okay, the next thing for us to do now is to determine the characteristic of this one. So to determine the characteristic of this one, we get our reference position. Our reference position will be immediately after the first non-zero in this number. The first non-zero is this 9. So that means our reference position will be after the 9, in between 9 and 4. So our reference position is around here. So all we need to do is to count our decimal places to that reference position. So if you count from here, 1, 2. So that means our characteristic will be bar 2. Okay, since our characteristic is bar 2, the next thing is for us to check our logarithm. So if you're using your Figure table, check 94 under 3. But if you are using your calculator like me here, so all you need to do is a work around it. So find your calculator and then press log 943 and press equals to or enter. Then the only thing we need is the mantissa side, which is 0.9745. If there is any other approximation you need to do to this last 4 digits of the mantissa, so we don't need this characteristic right here. All we need is the 4 digits that appear after the decimal, which is called the mantissa. So that's 0.9745. Okay. Then, since we've determined the log of both numbers, the next thing to do is to obey the law of division, law of logarithm, that says that when we have dividing between two numbers or more numbers, that means we need to subtract them. So subtracting the numbers will have something like this. So let me try to explain this answer. Remove 5 from 3. Since 5 is greater than 3, we say impossible. 5 cannot go in 3. So we borrow 1 from the next number. So when we borrow 1 from here to the 3, 1 and 3 together becomes 13. And then we now say 13 minus 5. That will give us 8. Okay. Then you remember that we borrow 1 from here. That means 4 will be left here. 4 minus 4. Remember, it's minus that we have in between them. 4 minus 4. That will give us 0. And then the next thing is we have 5, we have 7 here. Remove this 7 from 5. That is impossible. So all we need to do is to borrow 1 from the next number. And when we borrow that 1 to this place, that's 1 and 5 together. So that will make 15. So if that's 15, we say 15 minus 7. And that will give us 8. As we have it here. Then remember that we borrow 1 from here, so 6 will be left here. 6 will be left here. So the next thing for us to do now is to borrow 1 from here. we're borrowing 1 from here now, okay, to this place. So this one will now become 16. So 16 minus 9, that will give us 7. Okay, so I don't want you to be confused right here. We borrow 1 from here. Okay, this place already is by 1. By 1 means minus 1, and we actually borrow 1 from there. That means, okay, so let me try to expatiate that. That means we have by 1 already, that is minus 1. Then we now borrow 1 from it, that is minus, okay, minus 1 minus 1. Okay, I will explain this in detail. Then we now have this minus right here, so let's put it minus, and then we have bar 2 right here, so let's write the bar 2. Bar 2 means minus 2, so minus 2. So let's try to bracket this one so that it can be easy for us to get it through. So minus 1 minus 1, that means you're owing 1 penny, you now owe another penny. That means you're owing 2 penny. Okay, then minus, bracket means times, so minus times minus, that will give plus according to the law of mathematics. Minus times minus, that will give plus. So what we are doing here is to open up this bracket, and that will give plus 2. So minus 2 plus 2, you're owing someone 2 penny, you now pay the person the 2 penny. Are you still owing? Wow, you're not owing any money, so that is 0. Okay, so that's the reason why we have 0 here. Okay, the next thing to do now is to determine our antilog. So if you have this number, you check your antilog and see if the antilog has a character that is in bar. If the characteristic is in bar, that means you cannot use your calculator directly to find it. But since it's not in bar, it's in 0 points, or maybe 0 points, or just make sure that the characteristic that you have here is positive. If it is positive, that means you can use your calculator to solve it directly. So for those of you that are making use of your 4-figure table, all you need to do is to go into your antilog table and check 0.78 under 0 difference 8. But if you're using your calculator like me, so find your calculator and then press your shift or second function, then press your log, then press the number 0.7808 and press equals to or enter. So your answer will be 6.03. So if we approximate, because at the antilog level we need to have 6 digits, so we need to have 6 digits. That means we have 603. Then if you approximate this 7 to the 6, we have 7 here, so we have 6.037. so we have something like this, 6037. So if you're using your 4-figure table, you have this, but with your calculator you get the answer directly. So we have 6.037 as our final answer. So for those of you that are making use of your 4-figure table, what you just need to do here is to add 1 to this your characteristic, and that will help you to determine the places of decimal where you are supposed to put your decimal. So if for instance when we add 1 to this, it gives us 1, that means we are moving towards our right hand side because we got a positive answer a positive value for our characteristic. So we count to the right hand side from here. Since it's only 1, so we are counting from this place, that's before the 6, and then we count in 1 places, that is 1. So this is where our point will be, 6.037. That's the reason why we have this as our final answer. Okay, then you can actually cross check to see if your answer is correct or not. So all you need to do is to fire your calculator. So in case you get a wrong answer, you definitely need to check through to see where you've made mistake. So let's try to check that and see if our answer is correct. So 0.5692 divided by 0.0943 equals to, if you look at the answer now, our answer is very close to what we got. So 6.036, and this is 6.037. that means we are very close. So that means our answer is correct. Let's look at the example 4. In the example 4, we asked to evaluate 0.0961 multiplied by 4.873 divided by 0.8345. Okay, I need to explain something here. If you look at here, for the top one, this is the numerator side and this is the denominator side. The top of a fraction is called the numerator and the bottom part is called the denominator. So the numerator side is having multiply in between both numbers. That means we will apply multiplication law for these two, and then the value we get from there after applying the multiplication law there, that means we use it with divide by this number. So I'm going to show you step by step to do this. So let's get into it. The first thing to do is to draw your number log. You can see the number log now has an extra line. Okay, so let's determine the first one, which is the numerator side, the 0.0961 multiplied by 4.873. So that's the first one we need to do. So arrange the both number and then determine their logarithm. So but first check the number if it is less than 1 or greater than 1. If you look at the first number, this first number is less than 1, but this second number is greater than 1. That means this second number you can use your calculator to determine it directly, but this first number you cannot use calculator to determine it directly. You only use a work around it. Okay, let's look at the first number. The first number, you're going to determine the characteristic first. So the characteristic will be 2. So how do we know that it's bar 2? Sorry, bar 2. Okay, get your reference position, and the reference position is after the 9 because 9 is the first non-zero digit. Okay, so the reference position is around here between 9 and 6. So let's count from our decimal position. 1, 2. So that is 2, and that will be bar 2. So that is bar 2. Then if you're using your 4-figure table, just go under your logarithm table and check 96 under 1. But if you're using your calculator like me, so find your calculator, and then we're only making use of a work around this. So check log 961 and press equals to or enter. Okay, so the only thing we need out of this is the mantissa side. That means the 4 digits that appear after the decimal. So we don't need this characteristic right here. We only need 9827. So if you need to do any approximation to that 7, you need to do it. So if you look at the number before the 7, if you approximate this to, it will give you 0. So that means it still be you having 9827. So 9827 is what we have there. So that means the logarithm of 0.0961 will be about 2.9827. Then so let's look at the logarithm of the second number. So this second number is greater than 1. That means we can use our calculator to determine it directly. But if you use your calculator to determine this, it's not going to give you this value. Okay, so you can try it on your own to see. So find the calculator. Then we are determining the log of 4.873. I press equals to enter. That's going to give 0.687796. You can see. So all you need to do, you need to approximate. Since we need to have the mantissa side need to be 4 digits, so we are approximating to this 8. So if you approximate to this 7, sorry, this 7 will become 8. So we have 0.6878. So that means we have 0.6878. Okay, having gotten that, then since we have multiplication sign in between them, that means we are going to obey multiplication law there. So our multiplication law says that after determining the log, you need to add them. So we add them. So when we add them, we have this result, that's 7 plus 8, that will give us 15. So we write down 5, we carry 1 to the next stage. 1 plus 2, that's 3. 3 plus 7, that's 10. We write down 0 and we carry 1 to the next stage. 1 plus 8, that will give us 9. 9 plus 8, that will give us 17. So we write down 7, sorry, and we carry the 1 to the next stage. 1 plus 9, that's going to give us 10. 10 plus 6, and that will give us 16. So we write down 6 and we carry the 1 to the next stage. So we have 1 plus 0, and that's 1. Then remember we have minus 2 here. Okay, so let's try to explain that. So we have minus 2 plus 1. You're owing somebody 2 penny. You now pay the person 1 penny. Are you still owing the person or not? Well, you're still owing the person 1. So because you're still owing, so like in this logarithm, the characteristic side would just now be bar 1. So this will be bar 1. You can see it right there. So we've determined the numerator side now, which contains this both number. Then the next thing now is to find the log of this number. That's the denominator side. Okay, so let's write this number to the second side first. Okay, so take out the number, which is 0.8345. okay, then ask yourself this question: this number, is it less than 1 or greater than 1? Okay, because this number is starting with 0 point, that means it is less than 1. So if it is less than 1 and you punch your calculator to find the log of this, it's going to give you a wrong answer because it is less than 1. So all you need to do there is a workaround if you're using your calculator. So but before we do that, determine your characteristic. And your characteristic, to determine that, you need to know your reference position. Your reference position will be after your first non-zero. The first non-zero here is this number 8. So your reference position will be after it, in between your 8 and 3. If your reference position is here, all you need to do is to count from the decimal. Count the place of your decimal. 1. So because it is 1, that means we have our characteristic to be bar 1. So That's the reason why we have bar 1 here. Then let's try to check this result and see if we have 9214. So if you're using your 4-figure table, you're checking 83 under 4 difference 5. So you are checking 83 under 4 difference 5. So let's try to use our calculator to do that. So using your calculator, you're only making use of a work around it. So we check log 8 3 4 5, press equals to or enter. Then the only numbers that we need here is this mantissa side, so we don't need its characteristic. We only need the 4 digits after this decimal, which is 9214. So if you need to do any approximation to this last 4 digits, so check the numbers and see. So if you approximate the 6 to this 2 becomes 3. Then if you approximate 3, it's going to give you 0, because any number from 0 to 4 will give you 0 if you approximate it, and any number from 5 to 9, when you approximate it, is going to give you 1. So that means we have the mantissa, which is 9214. So as you can see right here, so because we have divide in between them, in between the numerator and the denominator, so we need to obey division law of logarithm there, so which says that we need to subtract them. Okay, when we subtract them, we'll have this value. So let me try to explain the value. We have 5 minus 4, that will give us 1. Then 0 minus 1, that means you have to remove 1 from 0, which is impossible. So all you need to do, you borrow 1 from here. 1 to the 0, 1 and 0 together becomes 10. So 10 minus 1, that will give 9. Remember that you borrow 1 from here, so 6 will be remaining here since you borrow 1 from here. 6 minus 2, that will give us the value of 4. And then the next thing to do, remove 9 from 6. That is impossible. So all you need to do is to borrow 1 from here. So if you borrow 1 to this 6, it becomes 16. 1 and 6 together, that is 16. So 16 minus 9, that will give us 7. Okay, so don't be confused right now. So we have bar 1 here, which means minus 1, and we also borrowed 1 from here. So let's try to break that down. Okay, so we have minus 1, which is bar 1, and then we borrowed 1 from it. Okay, and the next thing will be this minus that we have, that is subtracting them, minus, then you can see we have bar 1 here, which also means minus 1. So but this particular one right here, so let's try to bracket it. Okay, then we now have minus 1 minus 1, that will give minus 2. Okay, you're owing somebody 1 penny, you now owe another 1 penny, so that is minus 2. Then this bracket means times, so minus times minus, according to the law of mathematics, that would give plus. So we have plus 1, minus times minus 1, that will give plus 1. So minus 2 plus 1, so you're owing somebody 2 penny, you now pay the person 1 penny. Are you still owing or not? Well, you are still owing, so that is minus 1. Since that is minus 1, so writing that in your characteristic, that will be bar 1. So that is the reason why we have the bar 1 right here. Okay, so the next thing to do now is to determine our antilog. But before you determine the antilog, look at the characteristic. If the characteristic is in bar, that means you cannot use your calculator to determine the antilog directly. So all you need to do is a work around it. Okay, but before that, so if you're using your 4-figure table, all you need to do is to go to your anti-logarithm table and check 0.74 under 9 difference 1. Okay, so let's try to do that with our calculator. We're checking the antilog of 0.7491 as a workaround. Okay, press shift or your second function on your calculator, then press log and press 7491. Press equals to or enter. Then I don't want you to be confused right here, so we only need the first 4 digits. So we are going to exclude this decimal now. Pretend as if the decimal is not there and just have 5, 6, 1, 1. Then check the other numbers if we need to approximate them to the last 4 digits. And if we approximate to the last 4 digits, we have 5, 6, 1, 2. 5, 6, 1, 2. So you know that I told you that we are only making use of a workaround right here. So just assume that the decimal is not there. So all we need is just 4 digits, which is 5, 6, 1, 2. Okay. So if you have checked that with your 4-figure table too, you should be able to have this value 5, 6, 1, 2. So the next thing will now be to determine where the decimal will be. So to know where the decimal will be, so that is when you need to add 1 to your characteristic here. So your characteristic here is by 1. By 1 means minus 1. So minus 1 plus the 1 you are adding to it, that will be 0. That's minus 1. You're owing somebody 1 penny and you pay the person the 1 penny you're owing. That means you're not owing again. So that is 0. So because that is 0, okay, so let's say now we have 5. Sorry, let's try to analyze that. Okay, we have 5, we have 6, we have 1, and we have 2. So since is 0 that it gives us, so all we need to know, we are supposed to count from here. We are supposed to count from this position. If this value is a positive value, that's a positive integer, that means we will count to the right hand side. But because it's a negative value, we'll count to the left hand side. And remember that the value it gives us here after adding the 1 to it is 0. That means we are not moving other than this, but to put the decimal here, point, and then we have our 0 here. So our final answer will now be 0.5612. Okay, if you are not sure of your answer, you can cross-check to see if you're correct or not using your calculator. So let's try to do that with our calculator. Find your calculator and then let's try to do that. 0.0961 multiplied by 4.873. Then you can press equals to first so as to avoid any confusion on your side. Then press divided by 0.8345 and press equals to enter. Okay, now if you look at the answer we got, is 0.5612 approximately, and it tallies with our answer. That means we are correct. Now is the time to look at the example 5. At the example 5, we are asked to evaluate 0.3581 multiplied by 0.02847 divided by 0.009418 multiplied by 3.219. Okay, if you look at this question now, it has the numerator side and the denominator side. Numerator side has two numbers which are to be multiplied, and denominator side also has two numbers which are to be multiplied. So for the numerator side, that's the first one we need to do. Then so to solve this one, all you need to do, determine the log of both at the numerator side, then add them, and then transfer them to another side, which I will show you. Then determine the log of these two, and then add them because they have times in between them. The value you get for this one after adding, and the value you get for this one, the denominator side, after adding. Then because they have division in between them, you subtract that value. So after subtracting it, then what you got as your answer, then that is what you need to determine the antilog. So let's get into it as I show you this. The first thing you need to do is to draw your number log. You can see this number log is having an extra line, so that we can put those values in there as an extra value. Okay, so the first thing, we will start from the numerator side, which is this number and this number. So let's arrange the two numbers, and then we need to determine their logarithm. So but before that, check the numbers and ask yourself question if the numbers is less than 1 or greater than 1. If you look at this number, is less than 1, so that means if we use our calculator to look for the logarithm of these both numbers, we're going to get a wrong answer. So we cannot punch in the number, maybe like pressing log 0.3581. If we press it direct like that, it's going to give us a wrong answer. So if you're using calculator, we only make use of a work around it. So but first and foremost, let's determine our characteristic. So the characteristic of this very one, we can get it using our reference position. So reference position is around here, the first non-zero digit. Okay, so our reference position is between 3 and 5. So if we count the number of decimal places from this decimal point and we move to that reference position, it's only 1. So since it's 1, that means our characteristic will be bar 1. Okay, so the next thing to now do is to look for the log 3581. So if you're using your 4-figure table, just go into your logarithm table and check 35 under 8 difference 1. But if you're using your calculator like me, put all your calculator, and then we're only making use of a workaround here. So press log 3581 and press equals to or enter. So the only number that we needed here is the 4 digits that appear after the decimal, and that is called the mantissa. So those 4 digits will be 5540. If you have any number that you need to approximate to the last 4 digits, you should do, but the number close to that 4 digit is 0. So if you approximate 0, it doesn't have any effect on that last 4 digits. So we only have 5540. So that's the workaround. So we don't need this characteristic. What we needed here is only the mantissa, which is 5540. So we have this 5540. So the next thing to do is to determine the log of this. If you look at this number 2 is less than 1. So finding the log of this one using calculator also will give a wrong answer. We only need a work around it. So determine your characteristic. So the characteristic here will be 2. How do I know that? Well, get the reference position. The reference position will be in between 2 and 8. because 2 is the first non-zero, so the reference position will be in front of the 2. So if we count from our decimal 1 2, so that means our characteristic will be bar 2. So the next thing is, if you're using a 4-figure table, just go to your logarithm table and check 28 under 4 difference 7. But with your calculator, put on your calculator and then press log 2847. We are making use of a workaround here. Press equals to or enter, and then the only digits that we need is the 4 digits that appear after the decimal, which that's the mantissa 4 5 4, then the last digit here. So if you need to do any approximation, do the approximation to the last 4 digits. So if you approximate this 7 to the 8, this becomes 9. Approximate the 9 to the 3 becomes 4. That means the mantissa side will be 4 5 4 4. So that's the workaround I'm talking about. That means we don't need this characteristic that we have here. The only the 4 digit that we need is the mantissa 4 5 4 4. So we have 4 5 4 4. So the next thing to now do is to obey the multiplication law of logarithm that says that if you have two numbers being multiplied or more than 2 being multiplied, that means you need to add them. So we add those numbers now and we have this result. So 0 plus 4 we give 4, 4 plus 4 we give 8, 5 plus 5 we give 10, and we write 1. We carry the 0 to the next stage. 1 plus 5, that's 6. 6 plus 4, that will give us 10. We write 0 and carry the 1 to the next stage. So let's try to take it cool to do this together. We carry 1 to here, this place, and we have bar 1 here and we have bar 2 here. So let's try to expatiate that so that you can understand it better. Okay, we carried 1 and then we have bar 1 here. I told you that bar 1 means minus 1, so minus 1. Then we have plus here, plus, then you need to put a bracket now since we have bar 2 here. Bar 2 means minus 2, so put the bracket minus 2, put the bracket to demarcate it because of this minus that is inside. Okay, the next thing you do is this: 1 minus 1 will give you what? That will give 0. That's 0. Then the next thing is plus, because this bracket means times, so you say plus times minus 2. So plus times minus, according to the law of mathematics, it will give minus. So that means we have minus 2. So 0 minus 2 will give minus 2. So writing that in characteristic, that will be bar 2. So that's the reason why we have this bar 2 right here. So let's write this result to the next place here, which is the table. Okay, then the next thing we need to do is to determine the denominator side, which is this value here and this value here. Okay, so let's try to do that. Put the numbers and then ask yourself the question: this first number, is it less than 0 or greater than 0? If you look at the number, is it greater than 1 or less than 1? So if you can look at the number very well, it's starting with 0 point, that means it's less than 1. So trying to do this with your calculator directly is going to give a wrong answer. So let's determine our characteristic first. Our characteristic here will be 3. Okay, how do I know that? Well, get your reference point. Your reference point will be after the 9, in between 9 and 4, because 9 is the first non-zero digit. So let's count from this our point now. 1 2, then we count it to our reference position 3. So since it's 3, that means our characteristic will be bar 3. And the next thing to do is now to determine the log of 9418. So using your 4-figure table, just go to your logarithm table and check 94 under 1 difference 8. But if you're using your calculator, so let's do this with our calculator. So we're only making use of a work around it. So press log 9418 and press enter or equals to. So we only need the matrix side, which is the 4 digits that appear after the decimal. The 4 digits that appear after the decimal, that's 9739. You can see right there. So this is it. So you need to approximate to the 9 is the last digit here. So you need to approximate to that 9. So if you approximate this, let's say we are this 5 now, and you approximate from the 8 to the 5, this 5 becomes 6, and you approximate the 6 to the 9, so the 9 becomes 10, and we cannot leave it as 10. So all you need to do is to approximate the 10. So if you approximate 10, it's going to give you 1. So add the 1 to this 3 right here, it becomes 4. So that means we should have 974. Then but because we say is 4-figure, that means we need to include 0 to it. So 9740. I don't want you to be confused because of the approximation right here, which gives us 10. So and we cannot write 10, so we have to transfer it to the next number. So this next number will now make 4. That means we have to use 0 to represent this place because we are supposed to have 4 digits, which is the mantissa side. So for the mantissa side we have 9740. So we don't need this 3, which is the characteristic. You know, I told you we're only doing a work around it. So we now have this value 9740. Okay, the next number, which is 3.219. So is the number greater than 1 or less than 1? Well, if you look at the number is greater than 1. That means we can use our calculator to determine the logarithm directly. So let's do that. So log 3.219, I'll press enter, and that's going to give us 0.5077. So if we need to do any approximation, we can approximate to the last 4 digits. So the last 4 digits is this 7. So if we approximate 2, it's still going to give us the same 7. So we have 0.5077. 0.5077. So the next thing to do now is to obey the multiplication law of logarithm. So because they have times in between them, this both number, so let's obey that. That means we're going to add them together, and adding them together we'll have this result. 0 plus 7 is going to give us 7. 4 plus 7 will give 11. We write 1 and we carry the 1 to the next stage. So that one that we carried plus this 7, that will give us 8. 8 plus 0, that's still 8. Then the next thing is 9 plus 5, that will give us 14. So we carry 1 to this stage, we write the 4, carry 1, then 1 plus minus 3. So let's do that. Let's try to do that, sorry. 1 plus, you know, I told you that bar 3 means minus 3. So minus 3, you need to bracket it because of the minus. Then we now have 0 right here plus 0. So the first thing we do is to open this bracket. That's plus times minus. That will give us minus, according to the law of mathematics, 1 minus 3 plus 0. So 1 minus 3 will give minus 2, plus 0 will still be the same thing as minus 2. So then to write that this in characteristic, it will be bar 2. That's the reason why we have bar 2 right here. Okay, so let's transfer this result to the second side, which is okay. Having gotten, if you look at now, the result we got for the numerator side, that's for this both number, is this, and the result we got for the denominator side for this both number is this. So because they have division sign in between them, that means we obey the law, division law of logarithm, which says we need to subtract both. So that's the reason why we need to put minus there. And then we have this result. So let's check the result. Remove 7 from 4. That is impossible. So all you need to do is to borrow 1 from here, and 1 with 4 together, that makes 14. 14 minus 7 will give us 7. Okay, remember we borrow 1 from this 8, that means 7 will be left here. 7 minus 1, that's going to give us 6. Then the next thing is we have 0 here. Remove 8 from 0. That is impossible. So how do you get to do that? You need to borrow 1 from the next number. So, and the next number we have here is also 0. That means we can't borrow from this 0. That means we have to go to the next number to that number. So we borrow from here, we borrow 1 from here, and we bring it to this place. So if we borrow the 1 from here to this place become 1 and 0, and that is 10. So since this place is 10 now, that means we can borrow from this place now. That means this value here, which is 0 here, can now borrow from 10. So if we borrow from 10, 9 will be left here. So we now have 1 and 0 here, which is 10. So we say 10 minus 8, and that will give us 2. You remember that we borrowed from here, which is 10, and it's remaining 9 here. Since we borrow 1 from it, it's remaining 9. So we say 9 minus 4, that will give us 5. Okay, then my point will be this: we borrowed 1 from here, and we have minus 2 here. Do you remember that? Okay, let me try to do that so that you see it. Okay, we have we borrowed minus 1. That's, we borrow 1 from here, that is minus 1. Minus 1. Then we have minus 2 here, that which is this bar 2. So remember I said bar 2 means minus 2. Then the next thing is the minus sign in between them, which is the division law. So let's put the minus. Then the next thing is this value, which is bar 2, and that is minus 2. So we need to bracket it because of the minus 2. Okay, the next thing to do will now be minus 1 minus 2. You're owing somebody 1 penny, you now owe another 2 penny. That means you're owing 3 penny. And then we need to open this bracket. Minus multiplied by minus, according to the law of mathematics, that will give plus. So that is plus 2. So minus 3 plus 2, you're owing somebody 3 penny, you now pay the person 2 penny. Are you still owing or not? Well, you're still owing 1 penny. So that is minus 1. And then according to characteristic, so we say that should be bar 1. So that is the reason why we have bar 1 here. Okay, so the next thing for us to do now is to determine our antilog. But before you determine your antilog, you need to check your characteristic here and ask yourself question: is this characteristic in bar, or is it positive or negative? Let's put it that way. Is this characteristic positive or negative? If your characteristic is positive, that means you're counting your decimal places to the right hand side. But if it is negative, as in bar like this as you saw here, that means you're counting your decimal places to the left hand side. Okay, so without wasting much time, let's try to do that. So what we need to do now is, if you're making use of your calculator, you cannot press this directly into your calculator to get the value. You can only make use of a workaround it. Then if you're using your 4-figure table, just go to your antilog table and check for 0.52 under 6 difference 7. So if you're using calculator like me, so let's try to do it together. Find your calculator. We're only doing a workaround here. Shift log, that will get through to your antilog, and then press 0.5267. Press equals to your enter. Then we only need the 4 digits without that decimal, without this decimal. So we need 3362. So if you need to do any approximation to the last digit here, so if we do an approximation, this 2 will become 3. That means we only need 3363. So we don't need this decimal. So that's the reason why I call it a workaround. We're only working around it. So we have 3363. So the antilog we got there is 3363. So the question will now be, so where am I going to put my decimal then? Okay, to put your decimal, this is the point whereby you need to add 1 to the characteristic. So the characteristic we have here is bar 1. Bar 1 means minus 1. Minus 1 plus 1, that will give 0. So if that is 0, that means since we are supposed to count from here, from this position, that's before the first number, that's where we are supposed to count from. So since the value we got is 0.0, so that means we'll put our decimal here. So caution here, if the value that we have here is positive, that means we are counting to the right hand side. That means we are counting it like this: 1, 2, 3, depending on the number of places that we got after adding 1 here. But if we got bar, maybe our answer is bar 1, bar 2, bar 3 after adding 1 to it, that means we are counting to the left hand side: 1, 2, like that. So but since this gives 0, that means we are going to put our decimal at that same position that we are supposed to count from. That means we have points here, 0.3363, as in we see in this answer, which is 0.3363. Okay, we can try to cross check our answer to see if we are correct or not. So to do that, put in through your calculator and let's dial the value: 0.3581 multiplied by 0.02847, and then press equals to first and press divide. And then this time around, because we have 2 numbers here, so what I want you to do is to put both of them in brackets so that you can get the right answer, because if you don't put them in brackets, you will get different answer. you will get a wrong answer. So put them in brackets. That's the open, this is the open bracket and this is the closed bracket. Then 0.00941 multiplied by 3.219. Then close the bracket and then press equals to or enter, and then check the answer and see if it's tally. We have 0.3363 if you approximate it, and look at the value we have here. That means our answer is correct.